Hi class! Today I'm going to be sharing what I did for an assessment of my community unit. So here are the materials that you need. You'll need a modeling clay, coloring utensil, and a little bit of cardboard for the bottom. And you'll need this paper that I made for my class. I'll share this with you on my Google Drive. There are 3 parts to this project. The first part is the people. The second part is the drawing of the buildings. And the last part is building the actual buildings of the ones that you chose for your community. So this is kind of an extension from what we did last time. If any of you didn't watch it, please go ahead and watch it on my channel. And this will be focused on my city or my neighborhood. Let's start with the very first part. So the very first part, I got this template from Teachers Pay Teachers, from my fellow amazing teachers. I just downloaded it online, and I'm sure you can find it if you Google a person template. So here I asked my students to find 4 different jobs, 4 different community helpers that you think are important in our community. Our students, we had a conversation before we started this, and they actually came up with a lot of brilliant ideas. Another thing that I did to help was to get them to interview their families. So I asked families to share at least 3 jobs, that any volunteering or unpaid job that they are involved or that they've done before. And a lot of them used it as a starting point. So I'm drawing my 4 people here, and of course I'm trying to draw as many different jobs as possible. And after you draw them, you of course have to color them and make it all pretty. Can anyone guess what I drew? It wasn't easy. They needed a lot of guidance at the beginning. Once they got the hang of it, they had fun. They started just going on their way. I'm sorry it's lagging a little. I tried to fast forward it by I think 4 times? I don't know. It was quite faster than usual because I don't think you would want to watch me coloring the whole time. But I don't know what it is. It's just very laggy. Right, so use different colors to color your people. In case you haven't noticed, the first one is a policeman or policewoman. The second one is a teacher. The third one is the grocery store clerk. And the last one is librarian. My students love librarian. They love the library time, listening to stories, so I made sure that I included that one. Some of my students came up with ideas like, what did they do? They did race car drivers. They did bus drivers, they did archaeologists. There were some very good ideas there. I would highly recommend to include interviewing in there. It's super simple, and it's also to get the community involved in your classroom, so it helps. Alright, after they finish, I labeled each person so that everyone can see what they are, or I asked them to draw a little thing that they're holding, so it makes it easier for everyone to see which jobs you drew. And then you just cut them out. And after you finish that, let's move on to part 2. Part 2, you will need this paper. I asked them, of course, to write their names first and decide on the 5 buildings that we absolutely need in my community. So I focused on their community and didn't really give them guidance. We just talked, had a little class discussion, but asked them what's important to do to them, and also asked them to include reasons why. Of course, I have to do this orally because I have a quite young group and they can't write well yet, but they all had some good reasons for their choices. I also asked them to include at least 1 building that went along with their people that they made, their little people that they made, and then to color them. So some of my students did understand. So this template, if you haven't noticed, is like a road. I tried my best to make it look like a road so that it connects with the others, because at the end I've put all of their work together. Alright, so after that, I asked them to draw it, and I'm sure some of you might be wondering, why haven't you drawn anything on number 2, your home? There's a reason for that. We're going to be actually building that part, so I asked them not to draw on number 2, the widest blank spot. Some of them chose different places not to draw, which is fine. Some of them actually drew it all, and that was okay too. And I'm drawing little trees and streetlights to make it a little bit more like a town. Alright, the last part here is the actual building part. So remember, we left the number 2 alone. Write down what you were going to build, and I asked them to, I didn't do this because I know what I was building, but I asked my students to make a draft of, make a blueprint of what they are drawing, what they are making first, to get them to decide which colors they're going to use, and actually gave them a little bit of a guidance before they get started. They could look at the picture. And I'm going to be building a house. I'm going to be building a house. Not the house that I actually live in, but something that looks like a house. So a lot of them, this was their favorite part. They loved playing with the Play-Doh. So make sure you have something that I have underneath there, like kind of like a whiteboard or a clay. I don't really know what you call them, but that helps so that it doesn't get all over their desk. It'll be very painful for you or the kids to clean them up. Alright, I'm going to make little windows and a door. And there's my house. Oh, some of my students did so much better than what I made there. I'm again going to make some trees and bushes around my house. Just a little bit of clumps of green clay. I still think it's kind of cute. So here's a 3D version of my house that's popping out. It'd be fun if you have a small class and you have the time for it to build everything instead of drawing it all. But I think one was enough for my class. They really enjoyed it. So this whole project took us 3-4 days, I think, to do the assessment. But it's better than just asking them questions or asking them to write something, because it shows what they know, and it's also fun. Afterwards, let's put them all together. So I am putting each job according to the right building that they live. And there's that. That's what the final product looked like. Alright, I hope you had fun. See you again. Goodbye.